Just don't do it here.
This is the best place, American. So these people can see and tell others what they witness.
Okay. Your choice.
It's always my choice.
Lorenzo and his grandson find the corpses of guards scattered around the entrance of the winery's courtyard as they drive in. Inside the courtyard, one guard is still alive, pacing nervously just outside the hedges with his rifle. After exchanging a look with his grandson, Lorenzo retrieves a pistol from the glove box and tells the boy to stay put. As he approaches, he learns from the shaken guard that the intruder ordered him to stand there. Lorenzo tells him to come along, his pistol tucked into the waistband at his back, his hand resting on it, ready to draw and strike. Indoors, in the hallway, they find a henchman hacked across the face with a butcher knife, his body crumpled in the corner. He bears more bruises, clear signs of a tough struggle before his end. As Lorenzo and the guard move further in, he discovers more bodies in grimmer states, blood pooled across the floor and splattered on the walls. In the pantry at the center wooden table, a knife is lodged upright in the middle. Lorenzo takes off his hat and hangs it, taking a moment to simmer in anger before heading down the steps where yet another corpse waits. In the barrel room, they find Robert. At first, it looks like he's waiting for them, but a closer look shows a guard has him at gunpoint. Robert fiddles with his ring and a folded napkin, muttering that he should have been let in. "Why are you two still breathing?" The guard tries to explain, but Lorenzo cuts him off. "So let me understand. You came here, alone, to this vineyard in Sicily? For what?" Robert came for him, to take back what Lorenzo stole. He makes it clear he knows exactly who Lorenzo is. Now it's Lorenzo's turn to demand how Robert managed to find him, because no one has ever gotten this far. Robert doesn't give him the answer. He only listens while Lorenzo assumes he's already won. Then Robert explains why it's all about to go wrong. He sets a timer, 9 seconds of grace, before suddenly swinging at the guard who's been standing just a foot too close, forcing the gun to discharge and strike the man opposite, then tearing toward Lorenzo's side, killing the other guard. Robert turns the muzzle into the last guard's eye and uses him as a shield as Lorenzo opens fire. Robert shoots as well, the muzzle burrowing through the guard's skull and striking Lorenzo. But Lorenzo isn't dead yet, crawling away from his attacker. Robert picks up the rifle and shoots the man in the hind, lets him keep crawling until he's backed into a corner, then chambers around before shooting him in the face. After that, he takes the man's keys, returns to the barrel room, and sits to clean the blood from them. If you have come this far, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. When Robert exits the building, he carries a bag and his pistol. He quickly tells the grandson in the car to stay put after confirming he's alone. Robert starts to leave, but is halted by a gunshot, which makes him reflexively fire into the air before turning to face the boy who's handling a rifle. The boy drops it and runs off. Robert has been shot in the back, and for a moment he thinks of ending it all either through the brain or through the mouth. Instead, he takes the ferry back to the mainland. On the highway, he's bleeding out in his car when a stranger pulls over and sees him convulsing and badly hurt. He's narrowly escaped death. His blood pressure had dropped so low he wouldn't have made it to the hospital on time. As Dr. Enzo treats the wounds, he insists Gio, Robert's savior, accept the story that the man simply fell, not that he was shot. When Robert stirs back to consciousness, Enzo mentions he's alive because the rifle was only .22 caliber and wants to know if Gio has saved a saint or a devil. Robert is restless and edgy, but Enzo steadies him. "Will the bad men come looking for you?" "No." Robert continues to recover in the bedroom. Enzo enters with a bowl of soup, offering it alongside a warm introduction. They exchange names, and Robert, still wary, asks where he is. But Enzo only smiles and sidesteps the question. Soon, Robert is mobile, leaning on Enzo's father's cane for support. A quick check confirms he's healing well. He learns he's been bedridden for 3 days, and that they are in a small town called Altoonte. Robert goes to a cafe and orders tea, but instead, he's served a latte. He makes peace with the new flavor, sipping quietly when Gio and his daughter, Gabby, walk in. While Gabby greets the waitress, Amina, Gio sits with Robert. He points out that Enzo is not only a good doctor, but also a good man, responsible for many lives in the neighborhood. The undertone is clear. Robert better not give Enzo a reason to regret saving him. Before leaving, Gio returns Robert's car keys and tells him where his vehicle is parked. He also makes it known that even as a cop, he respected Robert's privacy and didn't check the bag he saw. Later, Robert makes an anonymous call to the CIA's Financial Operations Group. He starts to direct the operator toward the vineyard in Sicily, but she cuts him off and ends the call. He rings back and keeps talking, though she's skeptical of him until he points out that the place produces wine, which is unusual given its location. That catches her attention. He advises them to send a physical team, calling it a repackaging kind of operation, and makes it clear that he knows exactly who he's calling and how their system works. Robert is still lodged in Enzo's home and has made himself a bit more comfortable, even using the bedside drawer to store his things. Still leaning on the cane, he steps back out into the neighborhood. Sirens pass in the distance, distracting him for a moment before he moves on. The place winds through narrow steps between tall stone walls, and with his body still healing, Robert is forced to sit and catch his breath. When he's alone in his room later, memories flood in. He recalls explaining to Susan why he does what he does, before darker images surface. Faces of the men he's gone up against, the moves he's made to take them out. There's been blood, and there's his own reflection staring back. Robert stops at a new restaurant for a salad and a drink, but soon notices trouble brewing. A young man comes in, collects money from the owner, then heads back outside to a group of men dressed the same, waiting with motorbikes lined up. They look like a mob. Robert revisits the cafe and gets acquainted with Amina. This time, she actually serves him tea. Later, he walks down an alley where the mob has gathered outside a family business. Inside, Marco is demanding money from the owner, brushing off every excuse. When the man tries to negotiate, he's beaten, his face shoved into ice, a kick to the gut. Marco rejoins his gang and sneers that he wants the money by next week. They drive off on their bikes. Robert stayed watching quietly, long enough to take in the entire ordeal. The men ride out to Naples, where Marco goes in to see his brother. Vincent is in the middle of a meeting with Lucia and her husband, who refuse to sell their property for Vincent's planned hotel. Lucia is bold enough to say that leaving people homeless is inhumane. Vincent doesn't press further and simply walks out. Outside, he meets Marco, who hands him the collected money. They talk briefly about the newest addition to the crew. Vincent warns his brother not to draw attention with loud collections. Marco, however, wants more. He insists on becoming a true partner, but Vincent shuts him down, basically telling him to be patient. Just then, glass shatters overhead. An elderly man's body crashes through, hanging from a rope, his wheelchair crumbling below. Lucia screams, struggling as men restrain her. Vincent instructs that the body is left there so the message is clear. Robert and Enzo share dinner, the doctor reminiscing about his youth. Between bites, he mentions he'll be heading to the market the next day, but Robert cuts in, insisting he'll go in his place. It's the least he can do in return for Enzo's hospitality. Robert visits Angelo's store to buy fish. Amina happens to be there too, giving him a few quick tips on how to spot the freshest catch before she heads out. Angelo, recognizing Robert as a friend of Enzo's, refuses to take his money. All Robert can do is thank him sincerely. Meanwhile, the CIA comb through Lorenzo's estate and confirm the wine business was just a front for drugs. Tablets had been hidden inside bottles. Forensics report multiple bodies, but only one fingerprint turns up and it has no records. The CCTV cameras were all down at the exact same time. They also seize $11 million in cash, but it doesn't connect directly to the drugs. Instead, it points to money laundering and cyber theft. Because of the angle, the case falls under CIA jurisdiction. The drugs trace back to a Syrian terrorist faction that wasn't even on their radar. Emma's boss orders her to dig deeper. We get behind, people get hurt. Keep me updated. While Enzo inspects Robert's wound, Robert can't help but ask why the doctor has been so kind to him, never once thinking to call an ambulance or involve the police. Enzo reminds him of the question he asked when Robert first woke up, whether he had saved a saint or a devil. Robert's reply reassured him that he made the right choice. The next time the brothers meet, there's urgency in Vincent's tone. He tells Marco it's time to get loud. If they're going to commercialize the town, the residents need to feel the heat. The entire coast will be ours soon, all of it. Robert packs his bags and sets out, but something feels off. The street is crowded with people rushing in one direction. It's Angelo's store, engulfed in flames. Angelo shouts as he tries to put out the fire, while his wife cries. A few men struggle to hold him back. Robert watches as the town grieves and consoles one another. Not far off, Marco and his crew sit on their bikes, watching the scene with smug faces. Robert joins in, helping hands clear the wreckage left by the fire. Meanwhile, Gio digs into the cause. Reviewing CCTV footage, he spots a van pulling up just before the flames began. He makes a call to trace where the van came from. The next time Robert visits the cafe, Amina strikes up a conversation. She notices his habit of folding napkins, learns he cooks his own meals, and guesses his favorite dish might be spaghetti. Then she suggests they go out together to explore Altoonte's food scene, and Robert agrees. As she asked, he wears his new hat for the outing. They stroll through the streets, pausing at different food stalls while chatting. Amina shares that the cafe is her inheritance, one she has been running for 20 years. Robert's departure seems postponed. The townspeople have begun to treat him as one of their own, and even the children now know his name. The cafe has become part of his routine. On this day, he notices Emma discreetly trying to snap a picture of him. He calls her out and she joins his table. She starts probing with questions, but Robert stays unshaken. He knows exactly how she tracked him down, the steps she'll take next, and which of her threats are nothing but bluff. He even hints at a tiny black book that keeps him informed. To her, the whole exchange feels like a game. He toys with her, refusing to give up the full truth, including whether or not he killed those men. Gio gets a chilling call while at his daughter's school. When a teacher says an officer already picked her up, he bolts. At home, he's met with his wife's scream, followed by laughter and a whistle calling him in. Inside, the thugs have made themselves at home, his family held hostage. Before he can react, one of them knocks him from behind. Marco releases Gabby just long enough to rough Gio up, sneering that they have informants and know he's been digging too deep. Viking grabs Gabby again, and Marco shoves a gun in her face, warning that next time her father interferes, she'll be the one to pay. Gio shows up at Enzo's for treatment. On his way out, Robert spots him. They don't exchange words as Gio avoids eye contact, slipping past in silence. Curious, Robert asks Enzo what happened. Enzo only says he fell. He won't say much more, except that the Camorra, Altoonte's Mafia, has been stirring up trouble. Later, Robert goes to the church, where Emma is already waiting. She brings news that he's not on any wanted list. In fact, records show he's practically dead. Lorenzo, on the other hand, was a farmer wanted for money laundering and cyber theft. His farm doubled as a front for smuggling terrorist-linked drugs. But Robert knows Emma's report won't end there. She has to dig deeper, and he can tell this is her first real field job. He offers her a few tips on how to read between the lines and spot the real operation beneath the cover stories. He doesn't say why he chose her to help, but she doesn't brush him off. She accepts the advice and adds that one day she hopes to know why he picked her. It's a serene dinner in a nice restaurant until those tyrants come in with their trouble again. Marco taunts Gio, saying he needs the cop to get the Somalis to give him their boat. Gio stays mute, not bothering to answer. Across the room, Marco locks eyes with Robert and goes over to confront him. He tells Robert he's everywhere and should mind his business, not stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Robert replies that he's beginning to like this place, beginning to like the people, and beginning to feel like this is where he should settle. That means Marco will need to be the one to take his business elsewhere. Marco scoffs at the threat until Robert baits him to raise his hand. The moment he does, Robert grabs it and compresses the median nerve. The pain is sharp, forcing Marco to comply. Under the strain, he tells his minions to stay put and then beat it based on Robert's orders. Like a child in the corner, Marco does as he's told, drops his weapon, and leaves the building. Marco storms back to his crew, riled up and hungry for blood. He orders one guy to get the van, brushing off any thought of how Vincent might react to what he's about to do. He's demanding a gun when the supposed van suddenly barrels forward, slamming into the guy at full speed. The driver is dead already behind the wheel, the airbag blown out around him. Robert materializes with a bottle in hand and smashes it across Viking's head, dropping him cold. That leaves only Marco, who whips out a knife. Robert seizes it mid-fight and breaks the guy's joint, turning the blade back on him again and again. Marco tries to block, but Robert switches the knife to his other hand and drives it into his jaw. By daylight, police discover the bodies along with packages of an unusual drug. In Naples, Emma gets the call to check the news. There's been a train bombing. It's clear now that the drug money is fueling terrorism. She's needed back at base, but Emma repeats the same question Robert raised.
Why Sicily?
Why not Elba or Sardinia?
She argues the mainland hub is Naples, where trafficking would be far easier, and that means her presence is still needed here. Emma soon meets with the chief of police and hands him a file of men she wants to interrogate. He flips through the pages and points out one man who, by his account, is off limits. Emma only smirks. In the very next scene, she's sitting across from that same man, not negotiating, but offering him an opportunity. Police raid a building, capturing some men and killing others. Meanwhile, the chief of police meets with Vincent. He begins by offering condolences for Marco's death, then shifts to business. The chief warns Vincent to shut down his operation now that the CIA is circling in. He knows Emma is close to uncovering the truth, that Vincent has been bankrolling terrorists, buying their drugs, and flooding the streets for his own gain. But Vincent isn't shaken. He brushes it off, telling the chief to focus on his job while he deals with the woman. The chief tries appealing to his sense of empathy, reminding him the terrorists are killing their own people. Vincent doesn't care. When the chief pushes harder, Vincent drives a blade through his hand, pinning it down. A henchman steps in and severs the hand clean with another blade. Vincent leans in coldly and sneers that he wants the chief to go find whoever killed his brother. Then he has him dragged out of the room. Robert figures it out before Emma and calls to warn her. But just before the call, she was baited into visiting the chief at the hospital. She ends the call with Robert and walks toward her car. Then an explosion rips through the area, injuring several people, Emma included. She's rushed to the hospital. Then Frank arrives, and Emma wastes no time directing his attention toward the Camorra. Meanwhile, Gio and his family are seized by Vincent. He drags Gio into the town square, pressing a gun to his ear while yelling for the townspeople to bring forward his brother's killer in exchange for a reward. Residents spill into the street and watch in horror as Vincent fires a shot, clipping only Gio's ear. He threatens to kill Gio's family next if no one speaks. That's when Robert steps out of the shadows. He admits to killing Marco and explains why. 2 pistols raised where all can see, he walks into the center. He lays his guns down, suggesting they settle this elsewhere. But Vincent wants blood here and now. Robert is down on his knees and Vincent's gun is raised to fire. A single shot cracks through the square. Enzo with a rifle. Angelo pulls out his phone and begins recording, prompting others to do the same. Sirens echo closer as the police are on their way. Vincent withdraws, swearing this isn't finished. Robert, sharp-tongued as ever, makes it clear he'll be ready when Vincent comes back. Vincent and his men regroup, debating who the American really is. Vincent decides it doesn't matter because Robert dies tomorrow. But Robert doesn't wait for morning. He makes the first move, luring out a guard with a car alarm before stabbing him in the chest. Another sentry by the door drops next. Inside, the lights suddenly cut out. In the confusion, one man checks the window, sees nothing, and retreats, only to take a bullet to the head. More shots tear through the dark, dropping the others. Robert strolls in calmly, lifting a weapon from the fireplace. In the monitoring room, a lone man studies the cameras. Robert slides up behind him like a shadow and drives the blade clean through his throat. Vincent is asleep, unaware his crew is being butchered. A guard staggers in with his throat stabbed, distracting the last man just long enough for Robert to swoop in and strangle him. Vincent wakes to blood dripping on his face. He looks up, sees the ceiling crumbling, dumping a corpse, stringed by a rope. He then rolls clear, snatches up a gun, and yells for his men. Everywhere is dark and silent, corpses waiting in nearly every corner Vincent turns. One room holds Salvatore's body in the center, another has Gio with his head severed. The sight rattles him and panic takes over, so he starts firing in every direction, screaming into the emptiness. Backing up against a threshold, he doesn't see Robert until it's too late. One swift strike knocks him cold and Robert scatters pills around him. When Vincent wakes, he's bound from the neck down. He's coughing, saliva dripping, but still spits threats about killing Robert. Robert swings a blade in face, and Vincent croaks out the same question all the others did.
Who are you? You have less than 6 minutes before the pills stop your heart.
He begins cutting away the binds. Vincent's choking grows worse, foam building at his lips. Robert follows him step for step as Vincent gasps, his strength draining while the poison does its work. He stumbles out of the house and toward the gate, fumbling at the latch, screaming his dead brother's name before tumbling through. Robert doesn't lay a hand on him, he only checks his timer and keeps close. Vincent staggers into the road and a car slams into him, throwing him down hard. Somehow he keeps crawling, first dragging himself by the elbows, then scrambling with limbs like an animal. Robert steps up and boots him onto his back. Vincent takes ragged, broken breaths, chest heaving before finally going still. Emma watches the news, multiple Camorra arrests, Vincent confirmed dead. Robert comes by and she thanks him as his call saved her life. He's got a big bag but explains he's not leaving. It's the pension of a man he once gave a ride to, a bricklayer who lost everything to cyber theft. Robert traced the money back to Sicily and returned it. It's the only portion he took from the stash, the rest now seized. Emma studies him, still unable to understand what kind of man he really is, but as Robert heads for the door, he tells her she will. The money is left behind for her to do the needful. In Massachusetts, Emma finds Greg and presents the bag. Truly, it's U.S. cash, $366,400. She can't tell him who helped, nor do they both understand why he'd go such length for a stranger. It's a relief, though, as he and his wife won't be moving as planned. Emma is back at her desk when Frank steps in with news that she's being recognized for the role she played. He leaves a parcel on her desk before heading out. Inside, Emma finds a small black book with a handwritten note from Robert. It congratulates her and adds that her mother would be proud. She sits quietly with the weight of it, glancing at the framed photo on her desk. Susan, Brian, and a younger Emma smiling back at her. The streets of Altoonte can finally breathe now that the brothers and their gang are off the street. They've just won a game, and it's a cause for a big celebration. It's a wrap for this one. Keep watching for more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.